Good evening, America. Welcome to the Ryan Samuel Show. We are here. We're live. It is a wonderful Tuesday on July 21st, and the Trump administration has kind of dropped a semi-nuclear bomb on Barack Obama, or at least allegedly. Now, we've covered this consistently on this show. The Trump administration wants the Save America Act passed yesterday. Yesterday. They don't want it tomorrow. They don't want it 2 weeks from now. They want it now, and rightfully so. This is something that should have been in play decades ago, 50, 60, 100 years ago. The Save America Act should have been in play. You should have to be in person if able to vote. You should have to present a valid identification card to prove who you are, that you're one person casting one vote, no mail-in ballot without certain exemptions, and a tighter, more secure election process. This is common sense. However, the left doesn't want that, and we can speculate as to why. But Carolyn Levitt came out, and we heard this before. They dropped this before. They're just doing it again to put pressure on the Democrats to pass the Save America Act. That is what we are going to cover tonight. Do not forget, you can call into the show, 561-786-2916. Don't go anywhere. Great show tonight. We'll be right back. So today, Carolyn Levitt came out. She's now back as the White House press secretary. Came out and made a statement that Tulsi Gabbard had released documents that include Donald Trump, that include Barack Obama in interfering with the election all the way up to 2020. If this is true, this is serious business, and this is serious news. Let's just hear what Carolyn Levitt had to say.
Another matter, over the past few days, Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard has unveiled shocking new evidence that former President Barack Obama and top aides in the Obama administration conspired to subvert President Trump's 2016 election victory and undermine the democratic will of the American people. While publicly pretending to engage in a peaceful transfer of power, in private, former President Obama went to great and nefarious lengths to try to sow discord among the public and sabotage his successor, President Trump. The new evidence released by the Director of National Intelligence, who is here with me today, confirms that the Obama administration manufactured politicized intelligence, which was later used as the justification for baseless smears against President Trump in an effort to try to delegitimize his victory before he even took the oath of office. The truth is that President Trump never had anything to do with Russia, and the Russia collusion hoax was a massive fraud perpetuated on the American people from the very beginning. And the worst part of this is Obama knew that truth, and so did all of the other corrupt officials involved in this scam, including former CIA Director John Brennan, former Director of National Intelligence James Clapper, former FBI Director James Comey, former Deputy Director Andrew McCabe, and many others. Director of National Intelligence Gabbard's report further confirms what we already knew. There was no collusion, no corruption, except on the part of Barack Obama and the weaponized intelligence agencies at the time. The Russia hoax was a blatant lie, all ginned up by Democrat political operatives that were signed off on by then President Obama and leaked to the news media to launch a years-long witch hunt against President Trump and his first administration.
which is what we saw. It was all over the news. It was all over the media. It's the only thing anybody would talk about. Oh, Russia. Donald Trump colluded with Russia. They stole the 2016 election. Hillary Clinton came out and said the election was stolen from her. A far cry from calling everybody an election denier in 2020. Now, remember, every accusation by a Democrat is an admission. Every accusation is an admission. If they're accusing you of doing something, it means that they're doing it themselves.
Allies of the president, including his own son, Donald Trump Jr., were disgustingly smeared as Russian assets, and some even had their lives destroyed because of this vicious lie. The president's first 2 years in office had this fake distraction hanging over it, and endless resources, time, and political capital were spent having to debunk these lies from the highest levels of our government. Now, nearly 10 years later, thanks to the declassification of documents by Director Gabbard, the truth has finally come to light. And this truth vindicates President Trump, his family, and his many allies and associates who were smeared with defamatory lies. President Trump was right from the beginning about all of this, and we are grateful that justice can be served. Now, we have even more damning evidence implicating those who tried to sabotage a duly elected president and did grave material harm to our republic. Thanks to additional important work done by CIA Director Ratcliffe, Committee Chairman Rick Crawford over the past few months, a newly declassified 2020 report prepared by the House Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence, which DNI Director Gabbard has declassified, found that the intel community did not have any direct information that Russian President Vladimir Putin wanted to help elect President Trump in 2016. And in fact, Russia was actively preparing for a Hillary Clinton victory. But at the unusual direction of Barack Obama at the time, the intel community published implausible intelligence suggesting otherwise. Why? To sabotage the incoming president. This is truly one of the greatest political scandals in American history. And reporters at legacy outlets, some of which are sitting in this room today, like the New York Times and the Washington Post, were ridiculously awarded Pulitzer Prizes for their perpetuation of this hoax. It's well past time for those awards to be stripped from the journalists who receive them. It is not journalism to propagate political disinformation in service of the Democrat Party and those in the intelligence community who hand over out of context and fake intelligence to push a false political narrative.
She's the best. Carolyn Lovett is the best. She's amazing. But this is what they are. This is just another series of things that they're releasing, declassifying to show the urgency that our elections are not secure and that they need to be secure. This is a very simple conversation that everybody needs to, that everybody should be agreeing on. This 84, I think the statistic from Pew Research and many other outlets is like 84% of the population, the United States population, wants election integrity, right? They want voter ID, 84% of the country. So why is this
another matter over the past few?
How is this such an issue that the United States cannot somehow pass the Save America Act? And that's all they say. Listen, I hate pork. I hate bills that are loaded with crap, that absolutely have nothing in it of merit, that they're under the guise of, oh yeah, we're going to just do voter ID. And then all of a sudden, illegal immigrant amnesties, on one page, 1,000 pages in. And then all of a sudden they pass something that you didn't want to pass. So that's what you have to be careful with bills. But the Save America Act is a single issue bill that simply says you need ID to vote. And it goes beyond that, right? So it gives you every ample opportunity to vote. Even if election day is November 15th or November 20th, and I show up on November 15th, the day of election day, and I just became a citizen at 9 o'clock this morning. I bring my citizenship paper. I say, I just got my citizenship this morning. Here you go. This is me. They go, cast your ballot, fine sir. So it even goes to that. Like, there is no excuse not to vote. They give you every ample opportunity to vote. So there is no reason that this cannot be passed. But a year ago today, Tulsi Gabbard dropped these documents. It was 100+ pages. 100 pages that apparently show that Barack Obama assisted in the Russian collusion host. Okay. So she released emails, memos, talking points, and a draft of the PDB, which is the president's daily brief. So there was in the election, the intelligence community assessments in the summer and fall of 2016 stated Russia was probably not trying to influence the election by using cyber means. So this is a portion of the President Daily Brief that Barack Obama received, saying that Russia is not interfering in this election against Trump or for Hillary or whatever. But then he proceeds to hit the microphones and say that this is Russian intelligence. So December 7th, 2016, talking points prepared for James Clapper, the director of national intelligence. Foreign adversaries did not use cyber attacks on election infrastructure to alter the U.S. president election outcome. December 8, 2016, the president's daily brief says, quote, "We assessed that Russian and criminal actors did not impact recent U.S. election results by conducting malicious cyber activities against election infrastructure." December 9th, 2016. White House National Security Council principals meeting attended by Obama officials, including Clapper, CIA Director John Brennan, National Security Advisor Suzanne Rice, Secretary of State John Kerry, Attorney General Loretta Lynch, Acting FBI Director Andrew McCabe, and others. So there was an immediate follow-up email from Clapper's executive assistant tasking the intelligence community to produce a new intelligence community assessment, quote, per the president's request, covering the tools Moscow used and actions it took to influence the 2016 election. So after they received this email, or after they had this meeting, they then went on a scavenger hunt to try to find intelligence to show that Russia impeded in the election. There were media leaks around the same time that Gabbard's team called exaggerated or false regarding cyber interference affecting the outcome. The January 6th/7th, 2017 intelligence community assessment that was publicly released, which stated Putin and the Russian government, quote, aspired to help elect Trump election chances when possible by discrediting Secretary Clinton, unquote. Gabbard's accompanying memo frames the January 2017 intelligence community assessment as a manufactured product that contradicted 6 months of prior assessments and relied on the Steele dossier. If you don't remember what the Steele dossier is, a former member of the Hillary Clinton's attorney on her campaign brought it to the FBI and said, this is evidence that Donald Trump is colluding with Russia to steal this election. Which it's total nonsense. Completely found to be complete and utter nonsense. She called the overall process a treasonous conspiracy and a years-long coup to subvert Trump's victory and referred the materials to the Justice Department. July 23rd, 2025. Gabbard declassified a 46-page House Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence, majority staff, Republican-led, originally produced in 2017 to 2020, and then Chairman Devin Nunes. This is the document she had repeatedly called irrefutable evidence that Obama and his national security team directed the creation of the ICA they knew was false. Key points in the report per public summaries and Gabbard statements. 1. Critiques the January 2017 intelligence community assessments, high confidence judgment that Putin specifically aspired to help Trump win. Argues that judgment rested on scant, unclear, and unverifiable evidence and intelligence, often described as a single, secondhand, or fragmentary source. Notes internal intelligence community dissent among analysts about the strength of the evidence for Putin's preference. They're arguing about it in the intelligence community because they're literally trying to make it up at the direction of Obama, according to this report. Highlights that earlier high-level briefings, including post-election, did not emphasize or even mention Putin aspiring to elect Trump. Questions the process, speed, and political pressure under which the intelligence community assessment was produced. It's amazing how corrupt our political system is. It's amazing how we have an intelligence community that's billions of dollars, that has a budget bigger than most countries in the world. And they're being directed to invent evidence against another president. I wonder if the same could be done about going to war. If somebody has interest in, I don't know, maybe going to Iraq or Iran or some country, that the intelligence community can be bought and paid for to turn the American people into supporting a war or overthrowing a country or putting someone in jail. December 8th, 2016, the President's Daily Brief, quote, "We assess that Russian and criminal actors did not impact recent U.S. election results by conducting malicious cyber activities against our election infrastructure until they were directed, to do more." So there were a couple of firsthand accounts and a couple of whistleblowers that I'm not sure if they've been named yet, but their statements are there. Ray Leonard said, "The Constitution says it shouldn't cost to vote. IDs cost money." Everybody has an ID, dude. That's a weak argument. I appreciate your comment, but that's an absolute weak argument. If you're trying to say that the United States Constitution protects your right to vote without ID because IDs cost money. I mean, you got to use your ID for basically everything. If you want to register your kid for T-ball, they need a birth certificate. That's a form of identification. Appreciate the comment, though, man. Thanks for being here. But here's the whistleblower. Raised concerns about the use of discredited or low-quality information, including selective use of open-source Russian media, was pressured by her supervisor to concur with the intelligence community assessment's key findings tied to a promotion, refused, stating that they could not concur in good conscience, attempted to report concerns up the chain, including to the intelligence community inspector general, notes that senior officials, including Clapper, privately criticized the Steele dossier while still allowing elements of the Russian narrative into the intelligence community assessment. So the information that Gabbard is releasing apparently indicates that there was a collusion to present a false narrative that Donald Trump colluded with Russia. Here is a statement from Donald Trump.
They caught President Obama absolutely cold, Tulsi Gabbard. What they did to this country in 2016, starting in 2016, but going up all the way, going up to 2020 of the election, They tried to rig the election, and they got caught. And there should be very severe consequences for that. You know, when we caught Hillary Clinton, I said, you know what? Let's not go too far here. It's the ex-wife of a president, and I thought it was sort of terrible. And I let her off the hook, and I'm very happy I did. But it's time to start, after what they did to me, and whether it's right or wrong, it's time to go after people. Obama's been caught directly. So
here's the problem. This has all been said before. This is an old clip. We're just on our 1-year anniversary of this Tulsi Gabbard document drop. The Trump administration hasn't arrested anybody. The Department of Justice hasn't arrested anybody. That's why the Attorney General of the United States is no longer the Attorney General of the United States. It doesn't take that long to actually build a case if your evidence is that real. However, Donald Trump fought for presidential immunity and won it, so now Barack Obama has that same immunity. However, in order to have that immunity, he has to admit everything that he did in order to be protected by that immunity. If he lies about actions he had taken about being president, he therefore forfeits that immunity. So what you're seeing and what we have seen throughout the past couple of years is the right side of the aisle increasingly more frustrated because they want Donald Trump to arrest these people. They want Donald Trump to put Alvin Bragg in jail or Fannie Willis in jail, which she's in a lot of trouble anyway. But that's what they tried to do to Donald Trump. So now politics has grown to a boiling point. And this boiling point is one president's going to go after the next president, and that president's going to go after his aides and his allies, and people are going to turn on each other, and they're going to start putting people in jail, and it's really not good for the country. I mean, it's terrible for the United States of America to get to that point. But who started it? The Democrats started this with Donald Trump by convicting him of 34 felony accounts that are just fictitious and bogus in a standard business practice in New York City. Now, what is Donald Trump supposed to do? Is he supposed to not stop it? What's he supposed to do if this is all true, right? And we don't know. Don't ever trust what the government's telling you. That's why we talk about it and ask questions here. But if this is true, right, regardless of what Donald Trump is saying, if this is true, without a doubt, and it's not good for the country to go after a former president and his aides and the former heads of the CIA and the FBI, then what do you do if they actually broke these laws? And just like this is the perfect scenario that makes this so dangerous. Donald Trump, through these documents, through Tulsi Gabbard, is accusing the Obama administration with some supportive evidence that they invented this Russian collusion hoax, that the entire intelligence community came around and falsified documents to create a false Russian collusion hoax. Now, that would give somebody enough probable cause to put them in jail or maybe hang them for high treason. If Barack Obama had the power to do that, who's to say Donald Trump doesn't have the power to do the same thing and have the intelligence community turn around and say, nope, it was a hoax. We invented it for them because the president just has too much power. How do you decipher what's true? These are the questions that keep me up at night. That the president of the United States, no matter who they are, can turn around and direct the entire intelligence community to go after and publish that Ryan Samuels is in fact a Russian asset or a Chinese asset and has been planted here, and we must silence him. And look at all these documents. We have all of these text messages and all these screenshots, and he's working on behalf of them, and he sold them U.S. secrets, and he should be put to death because they don't like what I said. Even if it's complete nonsense. Who should have this much power? Nobody. This is not a country that was founded on this principle. This is not what our founders envisioned. This is not what you envision when you vote, or I envision, or anybody envisions. We can wholeheartedly and collectively say that this is not how it should be. But there's been little breadcrumbs of trails that we should have been picking up on over the years. WMDs, there's WMDs all over the place in Iraq. None. In fact, not a single one. Some say they were offloaded to Syria or Iran or whatever. Maybe. Some say that Saddam Hussein was bluffing, that he pretended to have chemical weapons to have a false posture of strength to the region, Iran, Israel, the United States, saying that he would basically gas them if they entered his country because he had them, to the point where we wore mop suits or complete gas. But they had pictures of aluminum tubes, remember? Colin Powell at the United Nations. They have aluminum tubes. So we need to invade this country. Was that the intelligence community working diligently to ensure that the United States was protected from terror? Or was it the intelligence community working tirelessly to please the president, their boss? There's a fundamental difference between the two.
So people say, oh, a group. It's not a group. It's Obama. His orders are on the paper. The papers are signed. The papers came right out of their office. They sent everything to be highly classified. Well, the highly classified's been released. And what they did in 2016 and in 2020 is very criminal. It's criminal at the highest level. So that's really the things you should be talking about. I know nothing about the other, but I think it's appropriate that they do go.
May I ask you about that, Mr. President? Tulsi Gabbard has submitted a criminal referral to the Department of Justice. From your perspective, who should the DOJ target as part of their investigation? What specific figures in the Obama administration?
Well, based on what I read, and I read pretty much what you read, it would be President Obama. He started it. And Biden was there with him, and Comey was there, and Clapper, the whole group was there. Brennan, they were all there in a room. Right here, this was the room. This is much more beautiful than it was then, but that's okay. I have nice pictures up. They came out of the vaults. They were there for 100 years. This is much more beautiful. We have the Declaration of Independence now in the room, which wasn't here. I guess people didn't feel too good about putting it here, but I do. But you know what? If you look at those papers, they have them stone cold, and it was President Obama. It wasn't lots of people all over the place. It was them too. But the leader of the gang was President Obama, Barack Hussein Obama. Have you heard of him? And except for the fact that he gets shielded by the press for his entire life.
Always. He's always been shielded by the press. The Democrats are shielded by the press. They're shielded by YouTube. They're shielded by Facebook. They're shielded by TikTok. They're protected by everything because, as we've discussed a million times on this show, there's been a concerted effort to infiltrate systems in society, particularly corporate America, colleges, schools, school boards, to insert this political ideology into future generations. We talked about it. We screamed about it. But we did nothing to change it. And now we have these kids that have grown up and are now on the content moderation teams at YouTube, the content moderation teams at Facebook or X, formerly known as Twitter. And what do? They input their political ideology or philosophy, insert keyword that's banned, and you're out. You're not out because you violated our community standards. You're out because we don't like you and we don't like your political philosophy, and we're not going to allow you to continue to grow and speak freely to the masses of society. That's something we're not going to permit. We have to stop it because, words are violence. Let's listen to some more of this video.
That's the one look, he's guilty. It's not a question, I like to say, let's give it time. It's there. He's guilty. This was treason. This was every word you can think of. They tried to steal the election. They tried to obfuscate the election. They did things that nobody's ever even imagined, even in other countries. You've seen some pretty rough countries. This man has seen some pretty rough countries, but you've never seen anything like it. And we have all of the documents. And from what Tulsi told me, she's got thousands of additional documents coming. So President Obama, it was his concept, his idea, but he also got it from crooked Hillary Clinton. Crooked is a $3 bill. Hillary Clinton and her group, the Democrats, spent $12 million to Christopher Steele to write up a report that was a total fake report. Took 2 years to figure that out, but it came out that it was a total fake report. It was made up fiction. And they used that. Now, the one thing they weren't able to do was and probably the only thing I respect about the press in years is the press refused to write it before the election. They refused to put it in. The Steele report was a disaster.
Well, of course, the media is backing up the Democrats because they've infiltrated that system. I mean, what do you expect? It's part of the plan.
All lies, all fabrication, all admitted, and admitted fraud. She paid $12 million and the Democrats for that report to a wise guy named Christopher Steele. He wrote a phony report, and they want.
He's talking about the Steele dossier, and what he's saying here is true. We can verify that wholeheartedly. The evidence is in. The Steele dossier was completely and utterly manufactured and brought to the FBI by somebody who worked on the Hillary Clinton campaign. Fact check it. Look it up. Google it right now. It's been completely proven false. I was concerned when this first happened in 2016. I was like, oh my goodness. I actually almost believed it. Because I was like, oh, the FBI is involved. Our own intelligence community is involved. Man, they're not all going to just lie. I was wrong. But that's how corrupt it is. They're all in it together. And just remember, they all hate you. They have power. You don't. You have voting power. You're a nuisance to them. And they will crush you or somebody you elect if they don't play ball.
Wanted to get that report in before the election. And I'll tell you what, I talk about all the time, the fake news, how bad it is. But in this case, they wouldn't do it. They saw it, they read it, and they said, we don't believe it. And it was only after, substantially, like a month and a half after the election, that it got printed, and it was a big wisp. It was just like a bang of nothing, because the election had ended. If that report had gotten published by the New York Times or somebody, and I respect the Times for maybe only this, because they're crooked as you can be. They're a terrible paper, a crooked, corrupt paper. But for this one moment, they said, this is bullshit, we can't put this in. And neither could any other paper. Wall Street Journal's a lousy paper, very, very dishonest paper. As you see, I'm suing them for a lot of money because they do things very badly. It's got a nice name, but it's really, in my opinion, it's a terrible paper. And it can be corrupt. But just so you know, they didn't take the Steele report was the dossier. Remember the famous dossier? I called it the fake news dossier. The news wouldn't publish it. And I'm amazed. They had 2.5 months. It was finished. 2.5 months. That was supposed to be what was going to happen. And it got published a couple of months after the election. And frankly, nobody cared too much about it. But that was a big thing. No, we caught Hillary Clinton. We caught Barack Hussein Obama. They're the ones. And then you have many people on.
And then, but nothing's been done about it. This is from a year ago. This is from a year ago. And, something. How are you going to fix it? How do you fix this system? Where a president just sits on his throne. The heck is that? Where a president just sits on his throne and directs his intelligence community to create a scenario that he can push out to the public. For whatever. I mean, God knows what else they've done this with. And God knows who has done it. How are you supposed to know? This is why the Save America Act needs to be passed. One of the main reasons. Today in New Jersey, the governor of New Jersey has come out publicly and said that illegal aliens are registered and voting in New Jersey. Listen to this.
We are here to share information I learned of a few days ago. In June of 2023, nearly 3 years before I became governor, a serious software error in New Jersey's motor vehicle system led to the improper voter registration of what we believe to be roughly 6,600 people in our state.
If you're illegal, how are you getting a driver's license? You're an illegal alien. You cannot drive here. It should be very, very simple. Like, why are you giving them a driver's license? Oh, there was a software error. We're only trying to give them driver's licenses. We weren't trying to let them vote. That would be insane.
In our state. When New Jerseyans applied for a driver's license or identification at the MVC, they were asked if they wanted to register to vote. In the case of this error, some individuals indicated that they weren't citizens and weren't eligible to vote, but the software registered them anyway. The error in the software was corrected a year later in June of 2024. That is more than 2 years ago. I learned of this last Wednesday, and I immediately ordered my chief counsel to launch a comprehensive investigation. Currently, the Division of Elections is working to ensure anyone who is illegally registered is removed from the voter rolls. Initial analysis shows that fewer than 400 newly registered individuals voted in an election due to this software error. They were
just a software error. Just a software error. This wouldn't happen if you passed the Save America Act. I mean, it really would not. But what happens to all the votes that were cast by all the illegal immigrants? I mean, are they just... We're just going to go ahead and keep those? We talk, the Save America Act needs to happen, man. You need to call your congresspeople, you need to call your senators, and you need to put pressure on them. And that's exactly what the Trump administration is trying to do. They're trying to build a sense of urgency through the releasing of these documents and then celebrating the anniversary of the Obama documents. And then the other recent document drop that we just covered the other day, the declassified documents about what happened during the 2020 election. We're not going to have we're not going to have a country left if we don't get on top of this. We're not going to be able to continue to vote and have some form of democracy or change it. But we're going to keep it nice and short tonight. Thank you guys for tuning in. Don't forget to hit that like, share, and subscribe button, and we will see you tomorrow night.